Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Bottom Line, presented by Vantage Circle. The Bottom Line is a web series that sifts through the noise, discussing the latest thinking regarding employee rewards and recognition. My name is Matt Burns, and I'll be your host, featuring a myriad of guests from across industry and disciplines, including my guest today, Joseph Chan, who is the founder and chief Loonie at Looniewell Consulting. Joseph, how are you today?
I'm well, Matt. How are you?
Joseph, I'm well. It's been a while. You and I used to work together at Walmart. I was an HR business partner at the time. You were in compensation. When I thought of people to speak with about rewards and recognition and the complexities around that, you were one of the first people I thought of. Maybe talk to us a bit about your background and experiences when it comes to rewards, recognition, whether it be in corporate settings or now with your own business.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for inviting me to join the discussion today. So I've been in the rewards and recognition profession for 20 plus years now. Started my career actually in the insurance carrier environment because I have an actuarial background, so naturally started there. Spent about almost 10 years on the insurance carrier side, then ventured into the client, the employer side of things. And until about 6-7 years ago, joined a boutique consulting firm, and 2 years ago started my own.
Very cool. So Joseph, this is a question I get a fair amount. People have been going through transitions as a consequence of the pandemic, a recession. Organizations are evaluating and reevaluating their current state, which is causing a lot of them to look at foundational opportunities around reward, recognition, compensation, and the like. I'm curious, when you talk about building a foundation, what do you need to lay in order to have that foundation be strong when it comes to rewards and recognition?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and if anything, I think the last 3 years has been the most interesting aspect of the business, and things just didn't slow down at all on our end. In terms of laying a foundation for rewards and recognition, what we always look at is how do you align with the business as well as talent needs to determine what the appropriate, call it rewards and recognition framework. Because really, depending on the stage of the business and what the business is striving for, what the talent needs might be, that's really what the foundation should be based on.
You mentioned two factors. You mentioned business interests and talent interests, and you and I have been around long enough to know that sometimes those interests can be competing. So my next question is, when you're talking about building that foundation, when you're building that, architecture around rewards and recognition, what kind of things get in the way of successful architecture?
Yeah. I think to your point, the challenge is always what is the immediate need. And what we try to do when we work with organizations is we help them obviously in terms of building that. I always call it the framework when it comes to rewards and recognition from a near term perspective, but we also try to emphasize the medium as well as the long term view. And some of the things that we see a lot is especially for growing and emerging organization. They have that immediate need they wanted to address as quickly as possible, which is really the one key of why they would be looking at the rewards and recognition framework. But a lot of organizations would sort of lose that longer term view on what they would need on a long term and setting themselves up for success, just so they don't need to unwind and change and revamp everything all the time. To us, our view on rewards and recognition is it's not a once and done. It's an evolving process. So that's why it's important to have those few, but always sometimes it is kind of competing in nature.
It's an evolving process, and to your point, it's one that benefits from consistency. One where if you have everything together in a one-stop shop, if you have access to your information, if you're able to consolidate conversations into a single interface, it's going to increase the likelihood you have adoption and increase likelihood of success with your programs. I mean, Joseph, you and I have designed these programs over the course of our careers. I would suggest yours are probably much nicer than mine. And in saying that, adoption is always a big consideration when you're building these programs. Rewards and recognition only work if the individuals who are attempting to reward and recognize identify with that and resonate with the efforts. I'm curious, as you're thinking about adoption, change management, putting ideas in front of key stakeholder groups, how are you trying to blend that art and science about thinking through, again, the economic considerations, the business considerations with the, as you mentioned before, the aforementioned talent considerations?
Yeah. So, and the really good example that I had the opportunity, and you know, this individual would have been someone that we've worked with in the past. The common mate was the design piece is actually the easy part, is the adoption, change management, and communication. How do we get people on the same page and buy into it is always the challenging part. And I think really going back to how do we ensure that there is a bit of a fine balance between what the business needs are versus the individual, what they would be seeking for. So there needs to be something in it for, you know, the employees, the team members, to them in order to understand why you're making such investment or such change. That to me is definitely worthwhile to invest in, to make sure that there is a clear and concise message on what people are getting out of this.
I think one of the areas around rewards and recognition that maybe is not fully appreciated by those who aren't as close to it as you, Joseph, is to what you just said. The psychology that goes into the efforts around design, but more importantly, as you mentioned, implementation. They're absolutely key in ensuring that as an organization, as a leader, as an individual contributor, that you are recognized and being recognized for the efforts you're contributing to an organization. Joseph, you talked a lot about talent. I think another context that we should touch on is the idea of competitive advantage. We're now entering into a time and a place where, demographically speaking, in Canada at least, there are more people leaving the workforce every single day than are joining it. And there's absolutely going to be increased pressure around talent in key roles. Talk a bit about how you have supported clients or your views on compensation as a lever to achieve competitive advantage in a talent attraction context.
Yeah. It's almost becoming a competitive disadvantage of not having the right rewards and recognition in place for attraction and retention. Couldn't tell you like how many projects or organizations that we've supported in the last 18 months that basically came to us and said, hey, we need to look at this thing and redesign something to really align with what we're trying to do as a business, because we're running, 100 miles and we needed the right program as well as competitive compensation to support that. So what's interesting is that organizations are looking at ways to really look at how they use their dollars to invest in these compensation benefits program to attract the right talent. And I've seen probably in the last 2 years that there is just consistently a lot of interest to look at whether it's traditional ways of doing things, but also new ways of providing creative solutions to help that competitive advantage. And I think the also challenging piece with the current environment is it is becoming more and more on a global scale, as well as there's really no boundaries on where you could hire just with the ease of technology of remote working.
It's a great segue to my next question, because you and I grew up in a world where 5 days a week we went to the office. I think you and I raced each other to the parking lot at Walmart to see who could get there first. And we often left quite late in the day, but the culture of the organization was built at the proverbial water cooler. We had meetings in the hallway outside of meeting rooms. We had conversations in the cafeteria about meetings that had just happened. It was very much a culture around in-person communication. And a law of social equity was changed around the organization to make things happen in a very complex, very highly competitive, very fast-moving type of organization, which coincidentally, a lot of organizations today, regardless of size, find themselves in because of the disruptive nature of the environment. As we think about organizations of the future and we think about compensation and how it ties into, how we move forward, I'd be curious on your thoughts about, let's just say we are as an organization starting from a new place. We either just beginning our operations today, or we're looking to completely revamp the way we look at rewards and recognition. What are some of the logical steps and mile markers that people can look towards as they assess the maturity of their effort? What are some things that you're looking for as you're assessing the maturity of an organization, how it views rewards and recognition?
Yeah, absolutely. So we put a lot of emphasis on first of all, to establish or build or revisit that governance framework and structure when it comes to rewards and recognition. And what I mean by that is as simple as, what is your compensation, remuneration, benefits philosophy? Do you have one? Do you need to establish one? Right? And that really speaks to where do you see yourself as an organization in paying and rewarding people, right? So that would be usually the first item that we would look at, and then it would be all the other called fundamental or foundational items, such as pay structure. What is your pay mix? When it comes to, for example, base pay versus short-term, long-term incentives, those types of elements. To whether you are benchmarking your compensation or your jobs against the market. What type of comparative groups are you using, and do you have things like a job evaluation structure in place? Do you have purposeful job description? Do you have position management? And there's a whole slew of different topics and different factors that we would look at and consider when it comes to, benefits and retirement savings program, those kinds of things. But there's a lot of, I would say, fundamental pieces that will give us some ideas on how mature an organization is currently, that they are at, and also future state on where they would potentially need to go if they become a more a bigger and more mature organization.
And to your point, as they become more global, we're entering into an era now where employment contracts are becoming, in a lot of ways, borderless, and there's tax implications, among other things. Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of organizations are solving for these challenges by using more technology that allows for them to not have to stay on top necessarily of compliance legislation around the world, or that can understand calculations in the back end more readily than human-based users can. Joseph, as you're thinking about technology, I'm just curious about if you've seen any innovation, or perhaps what innovations are you looking forward to help support this conversation when it comes to this idea of global rewards and recognition going forward?
Yeah. I think when it comes to rewards and recognition technology, again, going back to at what stage the organization is, as simple as I've seen different spectrums of how organizations adopt to technologies. For example, some of the more I would say younger in the hyper growth stage organization, they don't even have an HR information system to start with, and it's something that they need to first figure out to implement, right? Just to give them, to your point, that information, that data that they need to allow them to do some of the fundamental things. And then for some of the I guess more well-established or even emerging organizations, they might have something in place, but let's look at how do we potentially make things more efficient when it comes to whether it's administering the compensation and benefits program, or even as simple as providing interface files to some of the providers that they might have, let's say on the benefits or retirement side, right? Because what I found as organization grow and expand rapidly, some organizations might not have the right technology in place, and there might be just throwing headcount to be doing a lot of work administratively, right? So some of these challenges, but also opportunities, is how do they leverage technology to automate and streamline and make things as easy as possible. Just so the repetitive theme I always hear is, how does their people or HR team spend more time on strategic business partnering and consulting for the business, rather than doing administrative paper work or data entry work?
Yeah, I think wherever possible, you want to get your employees away from mundane, repetitive administrivia and into customer-facing, partnership-facing activities. That's where human beings really shine. I think whether it's ChatGPT or other AI models coming online at the commercial level, we're going to increasingly see more and more of organizations moving towards that future state. Joseph, I'm super excited about the future. You know me. I've always been somebody who's tracked and traced and followed trends. For you, what's something that you're excited about looking forward when it comes to the area of reward and recognitions? Maybe it's an initiative, a program, a way of thinking. What's something that keeps you excited about when we look forward?
Yeah, and I must say, given the time that I've been in the industry for the last probably 5 years or so, the exciting part is there's constantly so many changes and so many new offerings, new products that are coming, and it's just, again, a lot of them are enabled by the ease of technologies and some of the newer and startup organizations that are venturing into the space, and this is really exciting to see constantly new offering, new benefits or even technology come to the market that would make things easier for our clients or organizations. I think what we haven't seen in the past was like that pace of the new technology being introduced to the marketplace, and we're definitely seeing a lot of that. And I think some of them are very useful and helps our client a lot, and I would say some of the technology and new offering are now becoming table stakes for our clients as well. I think what will be interesting to see is as the market, the solutions continue to evolve and gets introduced to the marketplace. Are there any kind of consolidation that would make things even easier, or have some shape or form of a maybe a platform solution that would allow clients or employers to be able to streamline a number of services into one offering? Because right now, I would say a lot of the offerings are pretty fragmented. You get like a niche, like in one very specific area, and you've got like a dozen of them. But it's like it becomes more and more challenging for organizations, but also employees or team members to navigate the line of solutions that are available to them.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think we're in the era now of digitization of solutions, and that's leading to really two opposing forces. And I say opposing is probably not the right word, Joseph, but you have the enterprise solution, those that are building out laterally and adding on new functionality and trying to be that one-stop shop, as it were, right, from a technological perspective. That just makes it so much easier from a procurement point of view, internally in corporate settings. It makes it easier from an administrative point of view and certainly from a reporting point of view. Yeah. And there's an argument to be made around best of breed, going with that, to your point, single solution, doing one thing really, really well. And on the assumption that they have really good API code on the back end and they can integrate well with other systems, you should be able to get a pretty consistent level of service and reporting through those modules as well. But I think the exciting thing is that, to your point, we're getting to a stage where we're accepting that humans and workers and employees should be working on value add activities, and that we should be turning over the compliance oriented, administrative, mundane, redundant tasks to machines so that we can free up people to do their best work. And that's something that gets me really excited. Joseph, it's always a pleasure connecting, and I thank you so much for your time and insights today. Thanks so much, and we'll be in touch very soon.
Thanks, Matt. Take care.